Welcome back to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan.
Today, we are so thrilled to once again be talking to Dave Chesson. He's the founder of Kindlepreneur, and at Kindlepreneur, he helps authors, aspiring authors, to sell more books and make more money. Welcome, Dave.
Welcome back.
Yes, welcome
Thank you
back.
for having me
don't
back.
have to show us our pet, your pet again.
Oh, you want him to show the pet again?
Well, no, he doesn't have to. It's a really cute dog, though.
Really cute
Yeah.
puppy. You can look the other video and see it. We wanted to talk to you today. You brought up a really interesting topic about all the new kinds of scams going on Amazon. And we would love to hear more about that because none of us want to get scammed.
Yeah, absolutely. So because the Amazon market has grown so much and it's starting to become a bit of a beacon for scam artists to come into it. The reason for this is that there are, shall we say, people out there that can then track and see what books are doing well, see consistent sales, and so they can start to take actions. So one of the biggest scams that is happening right now that authors really need to be aware of is that there are printing presses in other countries in the world that will go and see that, hey, look, this book right here is selling consistently. It's selling maybe 10 or 20 books a day. And so what that printing press will do is they will get a copy of the book. They will then do what's called OCR image capture, where they just take pictures of the book and then they turn and print it off. Now, because it's on a certain place in the world where printing is really cheap, they will mass produce like 1,000 copies of this book. They'll ship it into Amazon under FBA, which is called Fulfillment by Amazon, and they will list it as brand new, and they will put the price like 10 cents cheaper than your book. And what happens is that when people go to your book on Amazon, they will then purchase the print book, right? But what they don't know is they're not buying it from the author. They're buying it from what just got shipped in. Now, the author is seeing that their rank, their Amazon bestseller rank, it's all good. It looks great. But then they're going into their KDP dashboard and they're not seeing any sales. They have made no money. And all of a sudden, it becomes this really big problem. When the author finally realizes what's going on, they first start by trying to tell Amazon, hey, Amazon, you are not selling my book. And then Amazon responds and says, oh, yes, we are. And by the way, people have the rights to resell your book on Amazon. Then you're like, well, when you finally get them to admit that, you then have to buy a copy of this fake book. And then you have to tell them, this is a fake book. This is copyright infringement. You need to take this down now. And they might actually fight with you about it and say, I'm sorry, but people have the right to resell. Until you finally convince them that this is not your book, this is not a reselling of a book of yours, that this is a fake copyright infringement, they won't do it. But here's the kicker. Usually by the time this has happened, it's been like 2+ months before you finally get Amazon to respond. And that means in those 2 months that printing press company has been taking all of your money, basically, for your book sales. And when Amazon finally shuts them down, say on the 3rd month, this is the worst part. Amazon doesn't take the money that they were about to give to this company and give it to you. They can't. They keep the money. Amazon keeps the money because they're not in the business of taking money from one account to another. So an author may lose over 3 months worth of revenue because of this problem, and it is growing. There's a buddy of mine who, his name is Ryan Kleckner, and he wrote the book called Long Range Shooting. And it has been like a best-selling author for 5+ years. It's probably one of the biggest books in the industry on teaching people how to do long-range shooting. And he has this happen to him at least twice a year. And it's just because he is a consistent seller and they mass produce it. And it's always and this is the worst part too for him, is that when this happens, the printing quality is terrible, the formatting is terrible, and the reviews reflect that. So all of a sudden he starts getting 1 stars for the book looking bad, and he can't, and Amazon won't even get rid of those reviews after they acknowledged they were selling a copyrighted version of the book.
So how does the printing company who's doing the demand on demand printing stuff, how do they get it to Amazon? How does it get sold? I'm missing a link there in my
Yeah,
mind.
there's a program called FBA. It's called Fulfillment by Amazon. And this is
Mhm.
where you can produce a product. So there's actually an entire industry on this where like say I could go to a we'll call a manufacturer in China who makes shoelaces, special glittery shoelaces. And I can purchase a whole giant box of those things, right? And then I can put my own brand on it. So they call it like a white label. And then I can send it into Amazon and it's through FBA. And then Amazon will create a sales page for it. And then when people buy it, Amazon sends it to, you know, the person who purchases it and I get the money. The whole time they have my inventory and they hold on to it. Well, these printing presses are doing the same thing for the book. And so what they're doing is they're mass producing it, they're shipping it into Amazon through FBA and saying, hey, Amazon, that's this book here. So now Amazon says, oh, okay, got it. And so now their book is listed on your book's Amazon page. And so when people go to purchase it, they think they're buying the new, you know, brand new, your book, and they're not. They're buying the Chinese or the, excuse me, there's other countries than China, but I'm not
So
gonna lie. I think everyone I've seen is China.
so if you have a book, like your friend's book, who normally is producing it, and how come they aren't also part of the solution? How come they can't say, you've got to only accept boxes that are from, you know, Boise, that are where our factory is or something?
Because Amazon's not in the business of doing that.
Wow.
Because the other thing too is people have the right to be able to resell your book. So in truth, if I bought your book and I read it, I'm like, great, I could send it in to Amazon or I could list it on Amazon. But the thing is that when I do that, I'm not putting it as brand new,
Right. It's
right?
you.
It's
Yeah.
used. So, you know, so those books don't show up. That's in a different section on your sales page that says buy used, right? But if
Right.
I send in like 1,000 copies, and by the way, there is a legitimate thing about that too, right? I could say I don't want Amazon doing the print on demand, right? The POD. And
Mhm.
instead, I could go to a printing press, mass print like 10,000 copies, if I will, because, you know, it becomes cheaper the more you do, and then
Mhm.
sending them into Amazon and then saying, Amazon, this is the book to sell. So basically, these printing presses are just printing the books for like $1 each or less than that, shipping it in it. So one shipment to Amazon, and then they're just getting money into their accounts, and they're just doing this at an alarming rate.
It just seems like it would actually be a relatively easy fix for Amazon to know that they have to deal with the writer, the publisher of that they wouldn't accept things from other groups that are being sold as new or going to weird accounts, like the money should only go to certain accounts.
But
Wow.
then again, Amazon makes more money with this mistake because,
Oh.
right, they're still making them their portion of the sale. They're also making fees for the FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA. And that last month where they take it away from, you know, when they kill that account, right? And that money, well, it stays in Amazon. So
Wow.
it's not like there's a financial motivation to do anything about that. And, you know, to them, it's like, you know, what can we do? Do they really want to expend resources to verify these things or check these things or just make more money?
Yeah, well,
So
they're
do you
going to
think,
make more money doing this. What
Right.
I didn't know is that you could just send in like 1,000 books to Amazon and say, here, these are, I didn't know you could do that. I thought it
Yep.
had to be like,
Yeah,
you know,
it's actually more financially viable. So this is what major publishing companies do, right? When they release a book that they know is going to be well, they will mass produce through a printing press like 20,000 copies, and then they will ship that into the stores like Amazon. They'll ship those to the stores on Barnes and Noble, and then it's for those companies to sell it. Now, in Barnes & Noble, generally, they'll do a deal where Barnes & Noble says, yeah, we want this many, right? And so they'll send it over. But with Amazon, they could just FBA it in, and then Amazon handles all the logistics, and the publisher gets the money at the end. And it's actually, if you know your book's going to do well, you would make more money by mass producing a large amount of books and sending them in to be sold than you would be to tell Amazon to go ahead and POD it, print on demand it.
Okay, so we've identified a scam and a problem. So do you have anything to say to authors what they should do? Should they POD? Should they, what's a way around this, do you think?
Well, the first thing is to know that this exists. So when you see the price of your book change, really dig in and figure out why. Okay. If you set the print price at say $24.99 and one day you look and it's listed as $24.80, you might have a problem. Like if you didn't change that price, then it means somebody else has. And if it's not Amazon, and I'll say this caveat, sometimes Amazon will sell your book for cheaper, but it's usually significantly cheaper. The good news is you still get paid what you were going to get, right? They just do this to kind of generate more, for whatever purposes. They'll do that from time to time. But I mean, if it's like a subtle thing and it stays there, go ahead and check your KDP report, your sales report. And, if you see all of a sudden your physical book sales drop, then you might have a problem. And the sooner you identify that, the sooner you can get on it. So the sooner you stop losing money. Right now, my team and I are actually developing a free Google Chrome plugin, and it will be called Reader Scout, but it's not ready until probably end of this month. And it will just monitor your books for you. And if your price changes, it will alert you. So it'll let you know when Amazon's selling it for, on sale, or it'll also let you know, hey, wait a second. Your book was $24.99. It's now listed as $24.80. You might want to check that out. So,
did you have other things that you were wanting to talk about? Because you sounded like you had one.
So another issue that's running into an Amazon is, if say there's a growing issue where either authors or publishing companies are filing false copyright claims through Amazon. They're doing it because it's very easy. There's a form to fill out and it doesn't matter. You could just claim anything and you don't even have to tell them specifically. All you have to do is just basically say, hey, Amazon, this person here is copyright infringing on my book. They're doing it with this book. My book is this book. Amazon immediately just shuts down the account and the book of whoever's been claimed. Now, once they've done it, they send you an email that says, let's say somebody claimed copyright infringement on your book, okay? Amazon sends you an email that says, hey, we did this because somebody claimed a copyright infringement. So we'll reinstate your account, okay? But you need to like copy and paste this phrase that basically says Amazon is not, it's a CYA for Amazon, basically. Once you've said it, like, no, there's no copyright, Amazon can't be held responsible, blah, 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 then they'll reinstate your account. But they won't reinstate the book that's gotten the claim. And what they basically say is, hey, it's up to you. You need to convince the person to release the claim, which means you have to take them to court. So you have to go to court. You have to then, and by the way, even if you win the court case, you have to make sure that in the court case, it flat out tells that the person is now required to inform Amazon that your book is good to go. This is why this really sucks, though, is that there are people that are not in the United States that are not subject to said copyright issue. And by the way, if that person isn't in the United States and you file in the United States, they don't have to show up. They don't have to respond. And then what really stinks is that even if they lose the case, what does it matter? They're not gonna do anything about it. You could try to then turn around and go after Amazon to then unrelease it, but what does that matter to them?
So what do those people get out of it, do you think?
Removing competitors.
Okay.
So here's a prime example of somebody who actually does it. There's a public domain for the book written by Marcus Aurelius called Meditations. Okay. It is 100% a public domain. It's a public domain because Marcus Aurelius died hundreds of years ago. Okay. He doesn't have the copyright anymore. Nobody has a copyright on it. Amazon allows you to publish a public domain, but they have rules. you have to have changed it by a certain percentage. You have to, like, for example, you write a foreword, you write a afterword, you create some images, things like that. That's more than enough to publish a public domain. So if you happen to do Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, you will within a couple of days get a copyright infringement claim from the #1 book that's been up for over a year with 1,000 5-star reviews, just so as to make sure they don't have another competitor. And then the problem is that no one will take them to court because it costs a lot of money to do. And on top of that, I'm guessing, because I haven't tried to, they're probably not in the United States, which means that there's no new books that can compete with them because they just remove them from the market. And Amazon, even though they can clearly say, you're right, this is a public domain, you can't claim that. Amazon's just like, hey, whatever. So that's
Wow.
another real gotcha moment that really sucks.
Wow. So it seems like Amazon has some work to do. They
But
don't have to because they're
they don't
making
have
money.
to.
but-
They
That's
don't
exactly
have
it.
to.
Remember in the last episode that I was on, I said the best way to understand Amazon or what they will do is what makes Amazon more money. Well, it doesn't make them any more money to get in between copyright infringement claims. It doesn't slow down their sales because people are still going to look for meditations and they're still going to buy that one book, right? So they make nothing, and it doesn't cost them anything to raise a finger. So therefore, I don't perceive them ever doing anything about it. But I do think that, this is a growing problem. And I was telling you guys earlier, before we jumped on, that I'm helping a buddy of mine to create a public domain. He's actually doing the Book of Enoch because he has a very, very popular podcast and he talks about it a lot. And I gave him fair warning. Hey, just a heads up, somebody may try to do copyright infringement. And we will pool our money together and we will take them to court and we will destroy them, because I'm like, you just need to be prepared for it. And, just imagine though, being a new author or somebody who doesn't know this, and you publish a book and you've poured your heart and soul into it. And then all of a sudden Amazon slams you and shuts down your account. It's a gut punch. I had this happen to me like 6 or 7 years ago. Somebody did the same thing to me because I wrote a book on a very, very niche subject. Before me, they were the only one on the subject. Well, they got mad. So they did the copyright infringement thing. My account was shut down for a bit until I sent the email in. But this person was out of the United States, and they actually sent a letter as well. So I got a lawyer and I was like, okay. And I talked to the lawyer and the lawyer was like, this guy has no claim whatsoever. And he's like, my lawyer even said, this dude, his lawyer probably told him you don't have a case at all because it's that obvious. So what was crazy was, in my particular case, I'm very blessed that it was somebody out of the United States that I could reach out to that was under the US law in that respect. But what was even crazier is that even when I sent a letter responding saying, yeah, right, and no way, they backed down. And then I said, great, now tell Amazon, because then I went to Amazon. I was like, Amazon, hey, guess what? My book's back, here's proof, here's the court, the letter and everything. They're like, nope, that person needs to tell us. So I went to that person. That person gave me a certain finger, raised a certain finger, and I'm like, so I went to my lawyer and he's like, well, you have the right to take him to court. You can claim all the lost sales at this point. And he was like, but I don't recommend it. And he said, I don't recommend it because it's going to take like 6 months of your life at least. And on top of that, how long would it take you just to rewrite the book? And it was a weird situation. So I was like, if I sat down and rewrote the book, that could take me just a couple of weeks because I have all my notes. I'll just rewrite it, right? And then my book will be out in a couple of weeks. And the lawyer said, look, and if he does this again, then we will take him to court and you get double. And then it's financially worth it. It was a weird calculation, but it totally worked. And the guy did not take down the second book. But again,
Wait, so you rewrote your book? Did you give it a new title? Is that why it was
new title, new cover, rewrote it, same subject, same information, same layout, same chapters, popped it right up there, and the dude just probably gritted his teeth and didn't do anything about it. So I'm blessed that my guy was in the United States, but the guys who aren't, like, what do you do? You
What do
know,
you do?
What do you
and
do?
imagine you getting that letter and how much of a gut punch it's got to feel, you know, or if you don't know that this is a ploy or a scam, where you might start thinking, oh my goodness, did I make a mistake? Did I copyright? Is my career over before it began? You know, like imagine the fear. When it happened to me, I lost like 20 pounds. I couldn't eat for days. I was sulking and scared, even though I knew in my heart I didn't copy. So,
Does it happen with fiction as much as with nonfiction, do you think?
uh, well, you know, there's a case right now going on that isn't so much a copyright, but it's a trademark infringement. And I don't know if I have the rights to use the names of these two people because I think it's still ongoing. But there was a fiction writer who's great in the industry, phenomenal person. And she wrote a romance, and I'm just gonna make up the term, but it was something like Soldier Mom, is what the title of her fiction book was.
Mhm.
And some gal, a couple of years later after the book had come out, she decided to write a nonfiction book called Soldier Mom or something like that. I don't remember. And later on, she built this whole business and things centered around Soldier Mom, you know, that term. And so she got a trademark on said term. And then she decided to turn around and file a trademark infringement on a writer who used a fiction title before her book called Soldier Mom.
How is it possible she did
I've
it
seen that.
before?
I've seen that happen before.
But you can do it
You
if you
can
did
do
it
anything. You
before?
can try anything, Elizabeth, if whether
You
she'll win or not, you know.
so, and here's the thing is that you can settle. You can also, but and again, I know that when we're not the ones being attacked, it's incredibly easy just to fall apart. I'm a pretty, I don't want to say strong guy. I mean, I'm it not much bothers me. But when I got that and I didn't do anything wrong, I fell apart for a week. My wife literally told me, she's like, Dave, if you can't handle this, you're in the wrong industry, buddy. Like she's got tough love and I love her for it, really do. But I mean, now imagine, like, what do you do? You're in my mind, it sounds stupid, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm a criminal. Like, how am I a criminal? I didn't do anything wrong. And it just eats you apart. It destroys you. And how do you write? How do you keep going? And so it's really hard. So one of the things that I love most about us talking about this is that it just becomes a little bit more familiar for people. That if it does happen, you'll have more strength just to be able to be like, I'm gonna get that person. Like, nope, I didn't. This is wrong, and I'm taking them down. And just
And
have that
I'm
confidence,
writing Dave an email and saying, "Oh my God, help me!"
right? But
Yeah,
that's just it.
exactly. What do I do? What do I do?
Well, and so a lot of people lose confidence and they either settle or they just roll over and take it, you know,
That's
and
awful.
think themselves that they were wrong, you know, that they feel they were wrong and they weren't wrong. Yeah, and so the trademark thing has happened a couple of times. I know that there was a very famous case a couple of years ago of what was her name? Is something Hamilton.
There were
Um,
a couple years ago that came out. There were a
Yeah, there
couple
was
wild.
one where somebody just started trademarking like all these things and just started trying to get and it blew up in her face though, big time. Um, I
Yeah,
can't remember.
trademarks are tricky. I think copyright infringement is probably easier to get someone on than trademark unless you really have a trademark for something.
Actually,
It's
when it
hard to
comes down to copyright law, it's almost impossible to nail somebody on a copyright infringement. Like it has to be without a doubt a copy and you have proof. It can't be a generalization. So like I mean, it's really, really hard to prosecute somebody on copyright infringement. So if you get a false claim of copyright infringement, just note like 95% of the time you're fine. Even if you did copyright, it's really hard to nail somebody on. And like I said, but we don't think logically when all of a sudden we're
But
being labeled criminal.
it makes you wonder why Amazon is so dogged about this, why they're so like, nope, this is how we do it. We're taking it down. You have to have proof because it really is so difficult to get prosecuted for it in a court of law.
Yeah,
So
but it
why do they
doesn't make
care?
Amazon any more money.
They could
And
make
guess
more
what?
money.
It doesn't make them any more money to get involved. It doesn't tie up resources getting involved. They don't have to deal with your emails anymore. It's just a simple process. Somebody submit a form, we send an email, and then until somebody tells us otherwise, the book's off the market.
Just seems
It's
crazy
simple.
though, because I mean, it seems like they make more money if there are two books on the market, even if they're fighting. And it should be like, when you guys settle this, then we'll take the
Well,
one off, we'll take it off.
not really, because let's go to meditations, right? Go back to Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. Just because there's two books on the market doesn't mean there's more market. So
That's
people
true.
go to Amazon, they're going to type in Marcus Aurelius Meditations or Meditations, and they're going to buy a meditation book. They're not going to buy two. And just because there's more doesn't mean there's more people searching for it. So it's the same amount of sales, whether there are 10 meditations or one meditation. It makes no difference. So it doesn't matter to Amazon whether or not that person is on there or not. Just so long as they're making a sale, they don't care.
And I'm guessing with Amazon, they don't care if someone has is guilty of copyright infringement. If someone else doesn't complain, they don't care.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like, there's books out there now that there are big stories about that probably you can still buy on Amazon.
Yeah, probably. So that's another big thing to kind of keep your eye on. So just kind of recap on it. Make sure to keep an eye on your pricing. Okay. If it changes, there's a problem and you need to look in it quick. The other thing is that there's a growing concern of people setting up false copyright infringement claims. And just note that if it happens, take strength, understand your rights, stand up to it, and fight it. And it's scary and it can feel scary, but and there are a lot of people who have been through it in that respect. Now, we're talking still a small percentage, but I want authors to know about this so they're not caught unaware, and they'll be like, oh man, if it happens, they're going to probably come back to this episode and they're going to listen to it again and be like, okay, I could do this. Got it. It's not as scary when you know it exists, right?
Right.
The other thing is that the third and final one that I want to talk about is the foreign rights. So this is actually a phenomenal marketing tactic. I really love it. I don't think authors are doing it enough, but when you have something like this, you start having scammers come in. Okay. So here's how it goes. You've written a successful book in America. Awesome. It's selling in America. You have worldwide rights to the book. But you're not selling anything in Japan. You're not selling anything in India. You're not selling anything in Germany, for that matter, right? So what publishing companies are doing in those foreign countries are saying, hey, let's go look at, what American books are doing well. And usually the publishing company knows that in their country, certain genres really translate well. Okay. And so they hunt for popular books, and then they contact authors and say, hey guys, you're not making any sales in our country. We would like to buy the rights to your book in our country. Okay. Or we would like to partner with you. Okay. And if you allow us to sell it, we'll give you like 30% of the royalties. This is actually a really good thing. I had a buddy of mine. He had a book called Mini Habits. And sure enough, a Japanese publishing company contacted him. And it was incredible because his book in America showed like a water droplet hitting a pond and then rippling. And it was a really cool cover. Well, when he signed on with this Japanese company, they were like, nope, not using that cover at all. That does not fit. And it's just this plain white cover with like words and things like that. And that's it. And he was like, oh my God, that is the worst cover I've ever seen. This is terrible. Like, this is not, but whatever. I wasn't making any money in Japan anyway. So if this fails, it doesn't matter. He was the #2 selling book in all of Japan for a very significant time. They clearly knew that his book on mini habits was a good fit for the Japanese market. They clearly knew what kind of cover to give. They wanted a minimalism cover that was clean and pure. And then they knew how to market it. And you know what? He made a lot of money that he wasn't going to make anyways. And that company made a lot of money. So there is a legitimate side to this whole foreign rights sales. Okay. And if you do, awesome. But here's the kicker. There's a lot of scams that are popping up. Authors are receiving emails from so-called companies asking to buy the rights. And they give you a runaround. So, or they buy the rights and then they turn around and sell you the rights to somebody else. Okay. So here's a couple of things that authors should use in case they do get one of these emails. Number one, okay, and this is going to be a harsh rule, but if your book isn't selling, like, there's no reason why a foreign company would be contacting you about the book. So immediately be like, pump the brakes. Do not, engage with them, because there's no reason they would be. Because what's going to end up happening is you get involved in it and then they start asking for money to help with the marketing, and really what they're doing is they're just taking your money. The second thing to this scam is really research online to find not just their website, because they'll send you a link, but actually research to see, because the companies that are legitimately doing this are legitimate companies. You can find them. Okay. You can find them online. You can find them, you can find information about them. They're, it's kind of like in the United States, we have the Better Business Bureau, right? Well, other countries have those kind of things too. And thankfully with Google Translate, you can always turn pages into English so you can read through it. So take that time and really look into it. Typically, there's something online that talks about which ones are scams. And so just take that time to look into it. Okay. And so I highly recommend that if you do get this kind of situation, okay, are you making sales or not? If not, then do not respond. B, if you do, or you are making sales, research on them, verify that they're legitimate. And then the last part to that segment is, I hate to say it, and I hate contracts, but you might want to get a lawyer to help you with that, especially if your book is doing considerable. Get a lawyer to go over these, because what you might end up finding, and this has happened, is that they're not only negotiating the rights to your book, they're negotiating the rights to everything around your book. So in this case, they could sell the movie rights to your book, if you're not careful. They could create physical things of your book and sell it. They could sell the idea of your book. Like, they have that right. And if you're not guarding that, you just literally gave away their ability, like your ability to do anything else with your book. So it's things like that where having a lawyer to help you with it would help. But sometimes they might be doing this book, but really what they're trying to do is get the movie rights, then resell it, or they're trying to get some other access that they know that you won't touch or haven't touched, that they're going to turn around and make money off of, and you're not privy to it anymore. So that's a really big scam, or there are some scams about that. But if you aren't looking at foreign rights, it might actually be a good opportunity.
Thank you. Wow, that's great. That's really good stuff that authors need to know. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely. Like I said, the
Yeah.
more authors know about these things, the better they can be prepared, the faster they can respond, and hopefully the less money they lose.
Yeah. 'Cause
Definitely.
not like we have a lot of money to lose, most of us, so.
Right, exactly.
But these things can prey on people's hopes.
Yeah, that's the worst. I mean, I think, like scamming writers and artists is just the worst, because you really are taking, hopes and dreams and all this. You're not just like, it's not just like you've made I don't know. No, I'm trying to think of
All
something.
scammers are awful.
Scammers
Yes.
are awful. Okay.
Scammers are bad,
Bad,
really
bad.
awful. Yeah. So,
Agreed.
So thank you so much. And we always
Yes.
end with the best thing we learned this week. And I usually start.
You always start.
I always start, actually. Okay, well, this is just good, which is there seems to be a universal cancer cure that is coming along. And what they found is it's a medicine that actually disrupts the DNA replication of cancer cells. So most cancer treatments are trying, they treat a specific kind of cancer because there's so many. But this one seems to have, the studies they've done, they've taken people who are like, they're going to die. There's no hope. And it's worked. Their cancers have been, the DNA replication's been disrupted. So that's my
Wow.
best. I know.
That is okay.
That's pretty good.
That's really good. Mine, take a sip of water.
Water's good.
Mine is that they have harvested the first commercial harvest of a methane busting seaweed. So it's a seaweed that I guess was a bit of a, annoyance for people before they realized this. It's in Western Australia, where this first factory is, or I don't know if it's even a factory, it's in the water. So they harvest it, they use it on cattle and other ruminant stock, and they just sprinkle, they said it's like sprinkling a little bit of like seasoning on top of the food, and it eliminates their methane emissions. So
How do
this
they
is
get
very
rid of their
good.
gas?
I don't know, but the seaweed magically does it. Something happens, so they don't have it anymore. And
Wow,
it's
I wonder if it would work for
completely-
people. Like you could sprinkle it on your beans. You could get beans and rice and just put it on your beans.
Right. I mean, right now they're just using it for, ruminant animals, but maybe it will. But that's good for greenhouse gases.
That's
So
really good. That's a big
Really good.
problem, actually.
it is a big problem. So Dave, are you finding something?
No, actually, I'm still going off of my so I did my daughter last time. I did my daughter's report. This time I'm going to do my son's report.
Oh, cool.
He did a report on Stephen Decatur, who I think is probably one of the most bodacious American heroes that nobody knows about. He fought in the war, the Revolutionary War, and he fought in the War of 1812. But he's actually famous for what he did against the Barbary pirates in Tripoli. And one of my favorite stories of his is that he was leading one of the major naval battles, and he was totally whooping up on some pirates, and it was great. His brother boarded a pirate ship because the pirates had surrendered, and the main captain shot him, even though holding a white flag, shot him and killed his brother. Well, when Stephen found out that his brother had been killed, he went nuts, and he sailed his ship straight into the heart of the Tripoli Pirates Battle Brigade, went hand-to-hand combat on there, fought sword to sword with that captain. The captain was about to like stab him and kill him, and one of his crew members threw himself into the sword to stop it and died to save his captain. And then Stephen Decatur grabbed a gun and shot him at point blank and killed him and took the ship and won the battle. I mean, I was like,
Wow.
that feels like a Hollywood movie to me, and yet that was real. That dude was bodacious. He's one of my favorites to read about. So that's what I learned.
That's wow. Well, I was thinking this sounds like a great book, and as you're right, a book into a movie.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
A movie into a book. I
And
mean,
yet
it's
it
so-
was real. That guy did that.
Wow.
Yeah, he
and
also.
he did two other wars.
Oh yeah. He
Yeah.
also stole a pirate ship, sailed in at night, pretending to be pirates, him and his crew, boarded the USS Philadelphia, which the Tripoli pirates had stolen, and blew it up in the night and sailed out. Like, just amazing.
Wow.
This guy
Wow.
was awesome. So
He is
yeah,
he is definitely a Hollywood legend.
right.
I mean, it's like,
Lot of
who
fun.
does all that? Yeah. Wow.
They should do that instead of making another remake.
That should be a good movie. Yeah.
Seriously, just go to. There's a lot of fun stuff in history. Just hit that,
No, I always am amazed that they don't use more, because there's so much amazing stuff, and it's like, really, you're
It
gonna
really
do another
is.
one on, I don't know, Henry VIII.
Yep.
Yeah.
There've been more than 8 movies, I'm sure, on Henry VIII or Elizabeth. So, well, Dave, we want to thank you again. We hope we have you back, because you have so much, even during the break between our shows. I mean, there was so much information there. You're just a gold mine.
Yeah, no
And-
worries.
You're so generous, as
Yeah,
Elizabeth
you're
said. Thank
so
you.
incredibly generous.
But-
Like I say, I've been a member, but I've written you, and you wrote me back, and you gave me, actual help. And I felt like, God, this guy's so busy, and yet he still just responded, even though I was just like one of your, I don't know, thousands of subscribers. So
Oh,
thank you for
no
that.
problem. And again, thank you guys for having me on.
Yes.
thank you
We
for
want to
joining
thank
us.
Maria Korloff for directing us and Alex Korloff for editing.
Yes, and please like the video and leave comments so we know what you are feeling about the work. And be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button so you won't miss any episodes. And if you would like to help support MetaStellar, the magazine, you can visit our Patreon page. And what we're best known for, well, we're known for so many things, but printing original fiction. And that is what the Patreon page goes to help us with. So thank you for joining us. And thank you, Dave, for joining us. And Elizabeth, always thank you. Good to see you. And bye, everyone. Bye. Thanks.